It's Monday night, and you know what that means. The Jersey First Television Network proudly brings to you the latest edition of Real Talk, and certainly I am the generational talent in Garden State media, and I'll continue to be the weapon of mass disruption because my level of honesty, folks, now more than ever, is truly necessary in this era of journalistic deception. That's right. It's me, Fernando Uribe. Happy Monday. Happy President's Day, ladies and gentlemen. What a great day it is in this country of ours on President's Day. Finally, the president's actually awake on Super Bowl Sunday, on the Sunday, the Daytona 500. And it's just conscious and coherent. Isn't it just refreshing, right, after the last 4 years? But I do want to thank you all for tuning in from wherever and however you may be doing so this on the 17th of February in 2025. Once again, happy President's Day. Hopefully everyone got to enjoy this day off, relax, do some errands, sleep in, whatever it was, folks. I'm glad you're making Real Talk a part of your Monday night viewing. And of course, whether you're listening on Facebook Live via StreamYard, on our Jersey First YouTube page, LinkedIn, Instagram, X, or wherever else, hey, we appreciate you taking the time to do that. And of course, if you haven't done so already, make sure you like us on Facebook. Of course, follow us on Instagram and X. And if you haven't subscribed already, make sure you click the subscribe button, and you'll be automatically notified of all the great content brought to you by Jersey First TV on YouTube. And of course, whether you get your podcast on Spotify or SoundCloud, download Jersey First and you'll take our episodes with you anywhere at any time, whether you're doing groceries, hey, maybe some errands, maybe you're just sleeping in after a very long President's Day weekend. I'm sure you have your smartphone on wherever you are. Check out Jersey First, and we do appreciate you doing so. Folks, I can't say enough what a privilege it is to be on the dream team of Garden State Media. That's right. It's always Jersey First TV. Of course, brand new episodes of The Nader Narrative premiere every Thursday, hosted by my outstanding tag team partner, the great Elizabeth Nader. And of course, brand new episodes of Real Talk premiere every Monday night. Of course, check your local listings and start times here on Jersey First TV. Folks, we got a jam-packed show for you today. You definitely want to stick around for final thoughts. I have a lot to really discuss about, well, let's be honest. It is President's Day, and I certainly do want to honor our presidents, but of course, the current president of the United States. And listen, after the last 4 years, what a disaster was under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, it's nice to see a president that's delivering for everyday Americans, and that's what he's been doing since January the 20th of 2025. And I couldn't be more grateful for our 47th president and everything that he's doing here in our United States. So again, happy President's Day, not just only to him, but for all the other presidents that we've got to celebrate in our adult lives. So we'll definitely talk about that a little bit later. And also, folks, hey, during final thoughts, you're definitely going to want to stick around because I'll be talking about some of the more useless people in local media and activism. And take your pick, folks. I mean, you got these 5 useless humans behind me. I'll examine a little bit why, this latest, I guess, line of toilet paper should be hitting the market soon. Because let's be honest, when you think about these 5 idiots, the first thing that comes to mind is you want to wipe your ass with them like we all do. So you want to stick around for that. We'll talk about these clowns a little bit longer, obviously, in the show. And speaking of clowns, I'll also get to discuss as well, certainly the latest episodes of Trump derangement syndrome that we see running rampant in New Jersey media and activism and everything else. But more specifically, when it comes to Trump derangement syndrome, especially in New Jersey media, we think about Joe Amididis, one of the co-chairs of the Center for Cooperative Media at Woke State University over in Montclair. I'll tell you a little bit more about why he's doing us a disservice if you want to stick around for final thoughts for all of that. But folks, again, when we talk about responsible journalism, we talk about really what we like to read, who we trust in today's media. And folks, there's a lot of people that we don't trust in the establishment national media and even statewide media. But locally, folks, you know what? Very few people we get to trust on a daily basis when it comes to how we get our news and information. Certainly, we think about the Hudson County View with my good friend, fellow alumnus, and a member of the Pinnacle, John Hines. Certainly, we think about HUDPost with James De Los Santos. Certainly, we think about Hudson County TV with Jeff Henning along with Julio Reynoso. But folks, when I think about journalism that I've trusted for a very, very long time, I think about the guy that got me into this business. The reason that, folks, I'm as devoted a journalist as I can be today is because of my guest tonight. He's a distinguished columnist for TapInto, Jersey City, Hoboken, and Bayonne. You can check it out at tapinto.net. Of course, click on the tabs to check out the local TapInto chapters, where you can see there. But folks, he's the reason I got into journalism in the first place, and he's the reason why I call him the dean of Hudson County journalism, and really the GOAT, in my opinion. Folks, he's the great Al Sullivan. Sullivan joins us live here tonight. I'm good. Al, how are you?
I am doing well. How are you?
I'm great,
you
man.
You seem to be good.
It's great to have you on here, Al. And I mean when I say it, man. The reason I'm in this business is because of you, and I owe a lot of my success to you because of the example you've always demonstrated to me and others in this industry. And you are big shoes to fill. I know you're not going anywhere, but I got to tell you, the reason I love this business and I'm so devoted to it is because of you. So props to you, man. I got to give you flowers today.
Well, I'm back in covering Jersey City full time at this point, which is an interesting change. Although I'm also covering Bayonne, which is all part of this incredible mix going on in local politics.
Yeah.
But as far as journalism, we're in a bad shape right now. Because we took aside a lot of media and we got banged, and a lot of it was proven wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry about the people from Montclair because they were, part of our culture, but they have to understand this is a lesson. And they've got to learn that taking a side and being a journalist don't work. You can be a columnist, but you can't take a side when you write stories and take misinformation. And that's a lesson we're going to suffer for a while. But, I think they're most hurting is because Trump canceled their subscriptions, federal subscriptions for millions of dollars.
Yeah.
But we're seeing a major change in culture on every level. And here locally, the problem is that there is no leader. And it's the same problem on the national level, but we lost Menendez. And now we're all scrambling to try to figure out who is going to be the leader of the party. And that's what this election's about. But it's couched in all this other stuff. And it'll be interesting where it goes.
Definitely, and we'll delve into that in a little bit later about the state of today's media, because I really want to sort of pick your brain about that. But let's keep it here in Hudson County for now. And seems like some boring days ahead of us, right, in Hudson County with this Civil War, Al?
This is going to be. There's a lot of issues. Okay, a lot of bad feelings between. I lost you. Hello?
Oh no, I'm with you. I'm just giving you the full screen. So continue. Yeah,
oh, okay. Yeah. I was wondering. Okay, there's a lot of issues going on. Okay, there are bad feelings between former allies, but essentially it's Sacco versus Stack, and they're both trying to keep control of the county and the jobs. But there are side issues. Jersey City is in Bayonne are at war because of the turnpike extension. Bayonne needs it, and if Jersey City hates it. And now Davis went against Fulop and decided to endorse Sherrill because he's afraid Fulop will kill the project. And that's a major blow to Bayonne because they need the bridge widened. But there are other issues. There's all kinds of backsteel. There were deals for the assembly seats. And it all ties down to the mayoral election, too, who you're supporting. Davis is supporting McGreevey. And Fulop, we believe, he has not said it, is supporting O'Day. But we'll see. I mean, it's going to be really nasty. It's going to get really knocked down before it's over.
Well, Al, what's also interesting, at least on the Democrat side, obviously for these assembly races, and we'll get to the municipal races in a minute because I really want to pick your brain about that. But the absence of a line for the first time ever, I think, really does a lot to discombobulate the normal machine politics, which has come to define Hudson County.
Well, I do believe the line matters. But I don't think that it is the only factor. The real factor is whether you have a good machine or not. And if you can get out your vote, you can win off with a line or not. But the last Board of Ed election in Jersey City showed that how easily that can be swayed. Because so many people came out for the presidential election, they had a vote all the way down. And in Jersey City Board of Ed, the top three candidates that appeared on the ballot were the top winners.
Yeah.
And they weren't, nobody expected them to be. I mean, that was a very big upset.
No, absolutely. And what's interesting, I think, and folks, if you just joined us live right now, it's 6:14 here on the East Coast. My guest tonight is the distinguished columnist for TapInto Jersey City and Bayonne, and of course, the dean of journalism itself in Hudson County, folks. The great Al Sullivan joins us here live. Like, comment, and share, ladies and gentlemen. It takes 2 seconds on your smartphone, your PC, Mac, or tablet, and share tonight's episode of Real Talk here on Jersey First TV. Al, what's interesting about these assembly races, to your mention, obviously, there's a lot of a local reach here. Obviously, you have the current mayor of Jersey City running for governor. What was supposed to be maybe uneventful assembly races in the 31st Legislative District, that's no longer the case. You have current Commissioner Jerry Walker now joining into this. There's a lot of talk that, hey, if he scores well, maybe he doesn't win. We'll see. But if he comes within a good striking distance, the current state senator in that district, Angela McKnight, could be vulnerable in 27 when she's up for re-elect. There's a lot of moving parts here, especially, obviously after redistricting, the 3 districts changed. Obviously, and for everyone at home that's not familiar, let me just give you a refresher all at home. The 31st Legislative District consists of the city of Bayonne, the entire south side of Jersey City, and I think certain parts of maybe the west side as well. The 32nd Legislative District consists of the city of Hoboken, the entire downtown section of Jersey City and the Jersey City Heights, and the 33rd Legislative District consists of the city of Union City, the towns of Weehawken, West New York, Guttenberg, North Bergen, and Secaucus. So a very different outlook than what it used to look like 10 years ago. Obviously, after redistricting, that has changed. The 32nd, 31st, people were thinking, well, we have some strong incumbents there. But now we're seeing Katie Brennan establish an independent bid. We're seeing Hoboken Mayor Ravi Bala, as unpopular as he is, obviously self-financing this campaign. We'll see where they fall into those tickets in the 32nd. We have the 31st. We have the current Democrat municipal chair, Barbara Stamato, current assemblywoman as well. It just seems like it's a big clutter, man, in 31 and 32 that affect Jersey City and Bayonne.
Well, yeah, I mean, and it's infighting. That's the problem. These are people who are been allies all of their lives, and suddenly they are pitting against each other. In other words, Sampson was an appointment of Davis, and now you have Davis and Stamato on different sides. It is going to be painful as any other family feud. I mean, because everybody knows everything else about everybody. And if it's going to come out, they will bring it out. And it's very sad, but it's sort of going to clean the house too. I think that at the end of this day, election day, you're going to have a much stronger party because they have vetted this. It has to happen. It happens every 10 years or so. I think we had one in 2008, I think it was, where Stack put on a separate line, and many of the same people who were involved in this are involved in that one. And
as a matter of fact, that was 2007 when he challenged Mayor Sal Vega. We all know that got ugly. That got really ugly.
So that was fun. Well, I mean, and the whole idea of him becoming senator, Stack, was due to the fact that there were manipulations behind the scenes to try to keep him from becoming the senator. So, I mean, this has always been a nasty behind the scenes stuff. The problem is now a lot of these people are older, and this may be their last go around. I mean, Walker is an up and coming guy, and he has a lot of strength. But Stamato is, she is the sister of former McCann, a mayor of Jersey City, the former mayor. And she's powerful because of him, not because of her own power. I mean, he's a big advisor. I have a cat behind me. Advisor for Fulham. And most people expect him to move on. A lot of these people who are with Fulham now are going to move up with this to the state house if he wins. If he wins is the big.
Well, that brings me to my next point here. I mean, obviously, we're seeing that Stephen Fulop was the first Democrat to announce in this very crowded field for governor for the Democrat Party nearly 2 years ago. He's got an enormous war chest. I think somewhere between maybe $10 to $11 million right now. I mean, clearly he's a fundraising monster, and we've seen that. But I think it's created some divide because even in Hudson County, though, Al, State Senator and Mayor Brian Stack, along with the county executive and the new Democrat chair, Craig Guy, have clearly drawn a line in the sand against Fulop. They've had mayors Turner and Ceres from Weehawken and Western collectively join their side. And now Bayonne Mayor Jimmy Davis is running for sheriff. So we're seeing an enormous civil war that is going to, I think, to your point, test the powers to be, I think, in Hudson County about coming up on June 10th. Who's going to survive? When the smoke clears and the dust settles, as they say, who's going to be left standing in what looks to be, I think, a very, I'll use a sports term, I think, for everyone that'll appreciate, a very fickle, chippy, a little bit of a, a little grinded out, as they say, during this primary process.
Well, yeah. I mean, everything is jobs here and position. And those who win, there's a big gamble going on here. I mean, Davis is gambling that he can become a sheriff. And there's a couple of reasons for it. I mean, but the problem is that if he loses, then they come into town to get him. And there's a lot of candidates who are vying up to take over mayor. He can't, there's a belief that he can't go back because he said he's running for sheriff. And I don't believe that. I believe that if he loses as the sheriff, he can run for re-election as mayor. But the fact is, he'll have a harder fight because Fulop will be working against him, and a lot of other people will be working against him. And I think Stack can't help him in Bayonne. I mean, you could send troops anywhere, but fundamentally, if the mayors of a number of towns want to get you out, they're going to get them out.
Yeah,
and all of these people.
And now I have to tell you, I mean, when you look at the logistics and numbers wise, I mean, it could be a really close primary race for sheriff because certainly we know that Stack has the GOTV, obviously along with Turner and Ceres. They'll get numbers out in West New York. They'll get numbers out in Weehawken. We all know that Stack can do that better than anybody in the state with Union City. We know Davis has a great following in Bayonne. Certainly, the other side, obviously, Sacco, Fulop, I believe the other mayors that are aligned with them. I'm not sure where Secaucus Mayor Mike Ganelli stands in this. I think he's
with Sacco. He's with Sacco.
Okay, with Sacco. Okay, so it'll be interesting to see how those numbers fluctuate. But if Jimmy wins the primary for sheriff, I think you might start seeing the end of the line for sort of the power base out of North Bergen, right? We have Nick Sacco right now. And listen, irrespective of differences I have with the mayor, I do wish him best wishes for a speedy recovery. I know he did have hip replacement surgery recently. So my best thoughts to him, speedy recovery, rest at home. Mayor, certainly, again, not, I'm a gentleman on this show. But we're seeing the power base in North Bergen maybe shrinking because should Shillari lose that primary, basically what Stack and Craig Guy and the Hudson County Democrat Organization are showing is that they got strength in numbers. And then that sort of translated also into, well, Fulop can't rely on the HCDO for support coming up to the primary. And yes, there's billboards all over the place. He has a lot of good ads. A lot of money's been pumped into his campaign. But I don't know if you saw the debate at Rider University online that was hosted by the New Jersey Globe, but Fulop didn't look too good up there against someone like a Steve Sweeney and a Ross Baraka. So this primary, I think, has a lot of moving parts. And I think also it could provide it could be the beginning of the end for him in Hudson County politics per se.
Well, you're going to have a vacancy for mayor in Jersey City, okay? And so a lot of what would have been loyal to Fulop isn't going to be there for a lot of other people. But as far as the sheriff's position, it will probably be decided how the vote comes out in Jersey City and where alliances are. I mean, because Saco and Stack, and with North Hudson, with West Hudson, probably even out. Bayonne is not going to come out completely for the mayor. I mean, he's popular, but he has a lot of opposition there. So Jersey City, along with all of the other primaries that are going on there, is going to be deciding most of these elections. Most of the, because they really need to talk to who is there. I mean, do they think that Stamato represents the African American community better than who's there now, or who is coming up? It's hard to tell. I mean, but everything I've been able to figure out, and people have talked to, believe that Jersey City will sway it because the votes are pretty much even everywhere else. Saco is not can't be underestimated. Whether and I wish him well too, because people tend to take advantage of your weakness when you're ill, and I hope he gets better soon, because this is not going to be easy for him either.
Absolutely. And folks, again, if you just joined us right now, it's 6:22 here on the East Coast. Takes 5 seconds. Like, comment, and share. Even subscribe, folks, to Real Talk here tonight, as my guest is the distinguished columnist for TapInto Jersey City. And a shout out to Steve Lennox. I know he's a big fan of the show as well. And he's the dean of Hudson County journalism, and the GOAT, in my opinion. The great Al Sullivan joins us here live on Real Talk. Al, let's jump into Jersey City. We'll get back to some of these county races in a minute, but I got to tell you, this municipal race in Jersey City is it's getting a little nasty. Obviously, to declare candidates, we have former Governor Jim McGreevey. We have current County Commissioner Bill O'Day. We have current councilman down in downtown in Ward E, James Solomon. We have former trustee at the Board of Ed, Musab Ali. And we have current council president, Joyce Waterman. I mean, it's President's Day. I think this is the field that we're going to look at in Jersey City. Still many, many months to go until the election in November. But how do you see this race right now, since tickets are being finalized and we're seeing council running mates? But, it's still many, many months to go. But how do you see this race in Jersey City?
Well, I'm going to tell you, I think that it's the three big ones. It's Solomon, McGreevey, and O'Day. Okay. Ollie has a very small base, even though he was a popular Board of Ed president and a young one. I don't think he has the kind of following that you need citywide. Whereas Waterman, she has the churches, and she's very much in the African American community, but she doesn't have that spread of the base either. Solomon has really built his base, and it's remarkable. And my conversation with McGreevey, we're doing a bunch of interviews for all of them, is that he sees Solomon as his big threat against him, not O'Day, which I think is a mistake too. But I think at this point, it's going to be those three, and if it goes to a runoff, it's going to be two of those three.
I'm with you. Listen, it's too close to call right now. I think it's fair to say that Solomon has compiled a really good ticket, a lot of incumbents, as O'Day as well. Certainly, Jim McGreevey. I'm not sure if you caught my interview with McGreevey a few weeks ago. Really good traffic, folks. Almost 18,000 views, all organic on that episode. So if you haven't checked it out, do so. I'll be talking to Bill O'Day coming up in March, as a matter of fact. And I'll be hopefully talking to Councilman Solomon in the coming weeks. But it's interesting because when you look at Governor McGreevey's ticket, short of Richard Bosciano, that's really the only big name that locally, because he's an incumbent. Just last week, Meredith Burns, the executive director of Art House Productions in downtown Jersey, joined the ticket. I think it's a great ad. She's, educated, very entrenched in the arts community, working mom. I mean, nice to look at. A lot of boxes checked off with Meredith. And the rest of the ticket still has to sort of establish itself. But you look at Bill O'Day and Solomon, they got a lot of big hitters on those tickets right now.
Yeah, and that's how you win elections. I mean, and it's on a municipal level. You get people who reach to communities that you don't have yourself, or see yourself as relatively weak. And I think both candidates have done, Solomon and O'Day, I mean, O'Day reached out to the African American community with one of the premier leaders there, and he brought on what do you call it, Daniel Rivera, who is a Latino, very strong in the Latino community. Whereas if Solomon for me is a little too progressive heavy, but then that may be an advantage. I mean, the city is changing, and the old areas that were once more blue collar, like Journal Square and the Heights, are now much more progressive. And so he may be onto something with that.
Well, it's interesting because when I talked with Governor McGreevey a few weeks ago, and I said this, listen, last November when I went to watch parties on election night, and I talked to different people, and I talked to surrogates from all the candidates. I said this, and before, and I'll say it again. I mean, Al, in Jersey City, this race is going to be about everyday kitchen table issues. Is my garbage getting picked up? What are we doing to address parking? What are we doing about affordability? What are we doing about more services for seniors? What are we doing about rec programs for our kids in Jersey City? I mean, all the woke bullshit, all the pronoun nonsense, all the identitarian politics. I said it before. No one's going to give a shit about that if your kids can't have working parks, if seniors aren't getting better senior services, if dispensaries are popping up all over the place, like the identitarian woke progressive bullshit that I don't care for. Again, there's a certain sector of Jersey City that appeals to. That's great. But everyday working Jersey Cityans, you have to win them over with kitchen table issues. And it'll be interesting to see which candidate can best convey that. Well,
McGreevy's big advantage, more than any other candidate in there, is he's been there before. He's been a governor, and he has been a mayor, and so he knows that. I mean, I've seen his platforms, and his platforms, he has a plan for almost everything, and I thought they were very well thought out. How he conveys it to the public is the big issue. I mean, he's not as flashy in some ways as Sullivan and O'Day are, and he needs to be able to reach people with his ideas, which I think he has good ideas. And again, when I talk to him, his big thing is he has experience, they don't. And so he was pointing to something Solomon did. He went to one of the state bodies to complain about funding, little realizing that wasn't the body that does the funding. And McGreevy hopped all over that because he understood that you have to know not just your municipal level government, but who you're petitioning to the state. And, and there's some big issues coming up for Jersey City, such as Christ Hospital. And you're going to have to deal with a lot of issues on a state level to save that hospital. And the schools are another big one. So it'll be interesting if he can convey that.
Absolutely. And what I think is really, really fascinating, though, Al, is, I feel bad for Junior Maldonado, the county register, because that ballot is going to look like a scroll out of like Game of Thrones, all right, or King Arthur's court. Like that ballot is going to be almost like a thesis in grad school. Like, it's going to be an enormous amount of paper. Because again, listen, I'm not discounting Joyce Waterman. I'm not discounting Musab Ali. Again, we don't know what their fundraising totals are. They're nowhere near the big three, but I'm looking at them as legit candidates. They're in this race until otherwise, and they're going to run people on their tickets. We're going to find out. I mean, just think about this. I mean, that ballot, oh my God, in Jersey City, you might need like a Red Bull to stand there in the voting booth and be able to read through everything. And God forbid there's referendums on the ballot, for God's sakes, who knows? But it could be a really laborious task in Jersey City later this November to select a mayor, obviously all the wards and the at-large seats, where I got to tell you, there's so many good candidates throughout all the tickets. I got to listen, it's still like 9 months out. I don't want to sort of just be, presumptive here, but, you look at names like you mentioned, Danny Rivera. He's an incumbent. He's entrenched in the community. He's a big name out there. He's a guy who I expect to survive this war. Someone like a Denise Ridley. That's another name. A Frank Gilmore. Another guy who I think is entrenched, an incumbent, has a good following. I think these are people like Rich Bargiano, again, a guy in his ward that's very, very entrenched, but he has some competition. He's got Tom Zupa, an up-and-coming guy in that ward. So short of maybe a handful of people, this race is really unpredictable in Jersey City.
Plus, there are independent candidates and one incumbent that has not tied in with anyone. That's Soleil. And Soleil has a very strong base in the Heights. He inherited a lot of Young's support deliberately, and to some degree, they were compatico all along. Soleil wanted a lot of the same things Young wanted, and those are good. He's going to be somebody who may be an upset in that ward, which is fun for me, but not. I mean, voters are going to have to decide. But Soleil goes to the senior citizens building the way Young did. He supports the veterans the way Young did. And if he can inherit that, he can pull a Young, because Young pulled it out a few times himself. So, and then there's a few others. There's other Parks people and there's a few independents that could throw the council races into total chaos. But I was always disagreed with moving the Board of Ed to November for that reason.
Yep.
And also the fact that what happened in the last election with the Trump, everybody was out voting, and it totally skewed the local elections. Well, that's going to happen now too, because you've got a governor's race going on, and they're not really getting a fair shake for their Board of Ed elections. You don't. Would you mind? It's part of the cycle, but it's going to be an interesting way to see how the patterns emerge, because
absolutely. And folks, if you're just joining us right now, it's 6:36 here on the East Coast. My guest tonight, he is the distinguished columnist for TapInto Jersey City and the Dean of Hudson County Journalism, folks. The reason I got into this business, the GOAT right there, my guest tonight, Al Sullivan, joins us here live on Real Talk. Folks, like, comment, and share. It takes a few seconds to do that, and show your support for Jersey First TV. Al, obviously, we have 5 people running to succeed the guy that is running for governor. And obviously, Stephen Fulop had his last State of the City address at Grove Street recently. 12 years is a long time. It feels like yesterday when he, went up against the establishment, up against Jerry Healy, up against Cory Booker, Bob Menendez, every entrenched Democrat in the Democrat Party in 2013. And 12 years later, here's a guy who's maybe not polling too well right now. Obviously it's still early, but has a lot of money. He's got a lot of endorsements. He's been very, very, he's rolled up his sleeves. He's gotten to work. It's hard to sort of look at 12 years in a few sentences, but how would you best summarize the legacy of Stephen Fulop as mayor of Jersey City?
Well, I think that one of the things at the end of the day will be that the city is better structurally. In other words, you have a stronger police department, stronger fire department, but development, whether you like it or not, has moved into areas which were really falling apart, like Journal Square and other areas. And I think his legacy will be that he managed to put the city onto a modern track. And, some of us are curmudgeons and we don't always like the progress, but he will be a progress mayor. People will see his legacy, his 12 years, as making a major difference in how the city turned around. And because vacant lots are vanishing, Journal Square, is like become Times Square. And
you don't recognize it. I mean, let's be honest. When you're driving through Journal Square, Al, it looks like you're driving through Gotham City. Like Wayne Tower.
Absolutely.
It's crazy to me.
I'm waiting for Batman. I'm waiting for
the Justice League to have like their center there. It's crazy. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. You were saying.
But I think he will come off, whether he wins for governor or not, his legacy is established. People will look at him as a successful mayor. I mean, and the problem for others is they may not have the same vision when they take over, and it'll be interesting whether they maintain what he did. I mean, and I don't always agree with everything he did, but I think that he had a vision and he kept to it, and he made adjustments in that. I mean, one of the big ones is pursuit of affordable housing.
Yeah.
He realized that they were going the wrong direction, even under his administration, and made that change. And he's in the progress of making that change. And that's one of his positives.
Al, the Pompidou has come under considerable scrutiny. We all know, going back to early last year. Some people might just say the timing was interesting, that the minute that Mayor Fulop pulled his support for Tammy Murphy, that pissed off a lot of people in Trenton, specifically the governor's office, and coincidentally funding that we thought was going to go to the Pompidou, which a lot of residents were against. Certainly County Commissioner Bill O'Day came out against it. Former Governor McGreevy came out against it as well. Again, I can't exactly pinpoint where it went south, obviously, for this project, but I keep hearing that a lot of residents don't want to see this being funded. And short of Stephen Fulop winning the primary on June 10th and then possibly becoming governor, it seems like the Pompidou is all but dead in Jersey City. Again, unless Stephen Fulop becomes governor, I don't see that project getting any dollars out of Trenton.
No, because all of the people who were going to take over the reins are not going to want it. This is his vision. And, the idea of building a city that is a international city, which is his goal, you need to have a museum. You need to have arts. You need to be able to do that. And this was his way of getting it quick. I mean, if you look at the old historic, the old museum that was on Montgomery Street, I think, and it closed and you had no place to go. I think that it's a good idea. I think it's just too expensive. I don't think the city, with the taxes rising in the schools and everywhere else, that they can afford, the people who are working in the city, who are living in the city, who are paying the taxes, can afford it or find it as attractive as he did. I understand the logic. He wants a Museum of Modern Art. He wants this kind of, testimony to that Jersey City is a city worthy of that. The problem is the Pompidou is a temporary thing anyway, because they're exporting a lot of their art out of Europe because they're redoing the Paris. A lot of their art may go back, and that may be something that some people are looking at and saying, is it really worth the price tag if you're not going to have all of this stuff that you're advertising now? I mean, but anyway, yeah.
No, listen, you're on the money with that, as always. Let me pick your brain real quick, Al. Just next door, I know you're covering Jersey City intensively this cycle, but again, you're the dean, so you know everything. And obviously, next door, Hoboken's municipal race is also going to get very fickle very quickly. Right now, we have, I believe, two established candidates. We have the council president, Emily Jabbour, has announced her candidacy. I believe another local candidate, I believe that someone who's going to be working for the Biden administration, also declared last week. We're understanding that councilmen Russo and Ramos, respectively, will be announcing sometime this week. We're hearing rumors about Councilman Tiffany Fisher announcing. Listen, for an administration like Ravi Bala, who I have enormous amount of heat with, he and I do not like each other. We'll try to see if he'll be a gentleman and come on the show. But regardless, different issues in Hoboken than in Jersey City. Hoboken obviously became a very progressive city under Ravi Bala's administration. Things I've taken him to task on, whether it's, again, I think Hoboken suffers kind of the same, not the TDS levels that I think other municipalities suffer. But Al, listen, I think you and I are kind of on the same boat here, maybe. Again, it just seems like in Hoboken, they're more worried about woke bullshit like pronouns instead of property taxes, public safety, parking. It just seems like the municipal race in Hoboken, while a little bit different than Jersey City, I think sort of is facing the same issues.
Well, the problem, Bala was lucky because most of what he did accomplish was actually accomplished by his predecessor, Zimmer. He just inherited it all. He didn't really do anything of significance in that regard. The thing is, all of these other people have been criticizing him for years on where his particular, hold on, let me put him down, his particular style of politics. The problem here is that, Rubin is getting another shot at it. He felt gypped, I think, when they had the three-party election back when Zimmer had managed to do away with the runoff. Now, it's going to be a legitimate election of people who have serious interest in, in the town. I mean, I don't think, I don't think Ravi really was interested in the town so much as position. He wanted to go someplace else. A lot of these people really love Hoboken. And so whether they're progressive, whether they're not, they are legitimately bound to whatever the fate of Hoboken is, which is going to be a little bit different than the last election with Bala. And I think that's a really important distinction. I like Rubin, I like Russo, I like Fisher. Jabour I don't know well, but I think they all have a real legitimate investment in the town that they're going to protect.
No, listen, I'm with you. And again, listen, the reason I take Emily seriously is a lot of the moms, whether it's the gun lobby moms demand action or the housewives. I mean, she has a good base in Hoboken. There's no denying that. But I think that at the end of the day, Hoboken, we've seen what these years of Ravi Bala has done to Hoboken. Obviously, affordability is still an issue. Flooding is still an issue. Pest control is still an issue. Not just the rats at City Hall that work. I'm talking about legitimate rodents. Like these are things we have to worry about. Safety. I mean, listen, we're seeing people in broad daylight being assaulted in parks. I mean, I say it all the time, not because I'm trying to be combative, but the idea that the administration thinks it's wise to spend thousands of dollars during Pride Month to repaint the crosswalks. You can hire more police officers. Okay, you can stop with the woke bullshit and hire more police. Make residents feel a little bit safer in a city that people love moving to because of its proximity to New York, because of the nightlife, the restaurants, the art community that's in Hoboken. It almost seems like these candidates almost have to sort of clean up the mess that I would argue Ravi has left them, and to some extent, some of his followers on the council.
Well, Bala had a particular vision that wasn't really conducive to Hoboken's survival. I mean, flooding is the issue. Homeless is another big issue. These are things that have never really been addressed properly. They keep coming up with plans for flooding, but they don't realize that Hoboken has historically been a flood zone way before any of the woke stuff. It's on an island, but where the light rail was a stream. And so Zimmer had this idea of pumps to be put in to try to get rid of it and then put a wall around things. And, I don't think they really completely understand the dynamics that they're dealing with or the impact on people's lives. I was a condo president in Hoboken for about 4 years, a small condo, 4 places. And we found out that, any of the basement apartments were impacted every time a heavy rain because it flowed right off of Washington Street down into the other streets. And the valves that are supposed to hold back the flooding just would give up, and it would come up through the toilets and sinks, and it would flood out all the basement apartments. Nobody's ever really considered that or did anything about that to replace those kind of nuts and bolts stuff. Plus, underneath the ground are ancient systems that, many are clay. I mean, a number of them were collapsing up by 14th Street for years. And when they found it, they found wood. Nobody's really got, maybe this is the failing of the federal government or the state government too, that they went and they did not get a comprehensive study to deal with the understructure before they start redeveloping.
It's really disappointing because to reference what you just said, it's been a multi-layered problem for decades. I don't want to sort of pile on and just say, well, listen, it's easy to sort of ridicule Ravi and members of the council. No, this is an ongoing problem within the infrastructure of Hoboken. Obviously, it's going to take various cycles to address it. I just think that the candidates that are going to announce in Hoboken, obviously now, whether they like it or not, might have to sort of go in a different direction. And to your point, listen, Ravi Bala, first day in office in 2018, was more preoccupied with, hey, making sure that Hoboken's a sanctuary city, and sort of these other progressive, talking points that, yeah, that resonates with his base, and he's hoping that maybe that resonates to his run for the state assembly in the 32nd legislature. We'll find out. But I think that for the candidates now, whether it's Fisher, Russo, Ramos, and also Jabor, I think they're going to have to tread a little carefully, man, because you want to get as many voters as possible, but you also have to sort of stick to the normal everyday kitchen table issues that Hoboken residents care about, Al, and that's not easy.
Well, I mean, one of the things you really need to look at were the last 3 presidential elections in Hoboken, and the fact that Trump did incredibly well in what is considered a sanctuary city. That is a message being sent to local officials that they can't ignore these people, that there are people who have a practical and very, very sincere concern about what's going on in their city. And the fact that that residents of a progressive city like Hoboken are voting for Trump sends a message. I mean, I talked to McGreevy about it. He pointed out that Hudson County had come out with 19,000 votes for Trump in his last election. And these are not Trump votes, they're anti-votes in many cases. Many of these people are saying, we don't like what the establishment's doing, so we're voting for an anti-establishment guy. They may not like him, but nobody local is paying attention to the fact that this is what is being said. They're sending something, they're saying something. And you better pay attention to it.
Well, Al, it's interesting, and I've talked about this on my other shows that I cover when it comes to how last November's election could impact this year, whether it's the gubernatorial primary, right? I mean, listen, let's be fair. Last November, Donald Trump just didn't fall back into the office. There was a mandate. Okay, he won the popular vote decisively. He won the Electoral College decisively, swept all the swing states. Every demographic you could think of, whether it's white college-educated males and females, single parents, blacks, Hispanics, Asians, Middle Eastern, you name it. Everyone was sick and tired of the incumbency. People were tired of the woke bullshit. They just were. The idea about pronouns and identitarian politics, it's nonsense. Every metric told us that that's what helped the 45th president become the 47th president. Having said that, people were emboldened and energized to vote early. Vote by mail was creating massive turnout. But now it's 2025. And not just, for the local assembly races, but at the gubernatorial level, Trump's not at the top of the ticket. And I want to pick your brain about this because Republicans can't just rely on the president coming to Wildwood, New Jersey again this summer like he did last year. And he had a great turnout. I was there. I was covering it for this show. I was up in the press box with all the other credentialed press and taking a lot of videos, discussing on the program. Republicans forget about locally, because to be honest, this county is as blue as Windex. It's asking a lot for Republicans to win assembly seat in the 31st, 32nd, or 33rd. But there's a lot of vulnerable Democrats in Central and South Jersey that can help shave them into the majority. Again, for everyone that isn't familiar, Democrats have a 52 to 28 advantage in the assembly. That's a big majority. If you can shave into that maybe and get into the 30s, that's a big deal. But again, Trump's not running this year. I think Republicans who came within 5 points of flipping the state red for the first time since George H.W. Bush in 1988 have to come out and be enthusiastic. They have to come out energized to say, hey, Trenton has been a disaster with a Democrat majority in the assembly. We had a 2-term governor that coincidentally now wants budget cuts and wants us to, tighten our belts now about spending, when for the last 7.5 years, let's be honest, tax credits for illegals, in-state tuition for illegals, driver's license for illegals, a legal fund to help illegals fight deportation. It just seems that now Republicans have an opportunity to maybe try to flip the state red in a year where the president is still immensely popular. The president scored really well in parts of New Jersey. Al, he won Passaic County. He flipped a lot of municipalities in New Jersey red. That's unheard of.
Yep, I agree. I mean, but I think you also have, there's this assumption that whoever wins the Democratic nomination for governor is going to be governor. There's a strong Republican that they got to get around also. And he came close to beating an incumbent governor in the last election. So he's energized, and he's going to have the Trump machine behind him, and because they would love to turn Jersey.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I think it's going to be a very interesting race leading up to June 10th. Al, before I let you go, listen, I owe really a lot of my success that I enjoy today. I owe it to you. You're the reason I got into this business. I'm forever grateful to you, and not to sort of spill too much tea here, but folks, 8 years ago when I decided to pursue this podcasting, I remember I reached out to every single journalist locally, and the first guy to call me back is my guest tonight. And he said to me, and I remember because I committed the quotes to memory, and Al, you said to me, Fernando, I see something in you, work at it, do your thing. I see what you're doing. Young man, keep at it. And Al, I got to tell you, those words resonate with me today because the reason I work hard is because of you. I owe a lot of my success to you because of what you mean to this business. And I'm forever grateful. Having said that, what we've learned about journalism in the last, let's say, few years, and listen, I feel bad for people at the printing press, people that work in the marketing department. I feel bad about the Jersey Journal and the Star Ledger Collective. I don't feel bad about Tom Moran or Ron Zettlinger, two guys I don't care for. But I really feel for the families affected by these local institutions basically closing down. But also, Al, it's the bill coming due. It's the chickens coming home to roost. And you said it before, people have developed this mistrust in establishment media, whether it's the national or even the statewide in New Jersey here, whether it's the Star Ledger, whether it's Insider NJ, NJ Spotlight News, but at the local level, people started losing faith in the Jersey Journal. People started losing faith in NJ.com vis-a-vis the Star Ledger. And again, I feel bad for those people, those families that are affected, but I don't feel bad for the propagandist, Al, that created this climate where, let's be honest, again, it's why podcasting and podcasters like me are doing well. You're only giving me more fodder by not being honest. Now, you're one of the guys that's kept it real and honest for all these decades, and that's why we're grateful to you. But there is an issue with local media dying, and that's a concern, man. Yes.
I mean, what do you call it? The Hudson Reporter went down. It's up back again in a very questionable state. And, it's being picked up by Jersey City Times, the Hudson County View, excuse me. Sorry about that. And others, and people like you. The fact is that if you can stay the course and you can be legitimate and you stay long enough, people will gravitate to you because they know what your message is and they know it isn't going to be bullshit. Excuse me. It is going to be factually based. And that's all you can do. I mean, the problem is with mass media is they're preaching to the crowd. They think they can influence you rather than inform you. Yeah. What you've done is you've taken on people you disagree with on your programs and presented them because that is what you're supposed to do. That's what journalists are supposed to do. We're not supposed to be the one that just compared free speech to Nazism. I mean, that's ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, they not only does it show her ignorance, and it shows the network CBS's ignorance, but it shows that they have no respect for the people that they're reaching. You've never been different. You've always been respectful for both the people you're interviewing and also the people that you're reaching out to. You're presenting their arguments and allowing them space. That's what you're supposed to do. That's what good journalism is about. That's what fair journalism is about.
Well,
I mean, that's what you do.
Thank you, and I appreciate the kind words. And I think even the term journalism, like any other industry, I think it evolves. I mean, obviously, the old days of, hey, you go to school, you get a degree in journalism, you write for a local paper. Obviously, that's slowly really dwindling down. I mean, everything's become very digital. To some extent, I mean, listen, there are plenty of my peers that will look at me and say, well, Fernando Uribe is not a journalist. He's a podcaster. He's an opinion journalist. That's not journalism. And my response is, again, the reason that people have lost a lot of faith, man, in journalism is, let's be honest, for the last 4 years, right, maybe a little bit longer, what was the establishment media telling us about Joe Biden? Oh, this guy's doing calculus homework for his grandkids. He's staying up late with meetings. The guy's cognitively, he's all there. And whether it's the national media, but even here in New Jersey, take your pick, man. David Cruz, Tom Moran, Insider NJ, Max Pizarro, Ron Zentlinger, would have you believe that someone like Joe Biden, who we all knew, we saw it for years already, was not cognitively there. And then what happened? Last June, during that disaster of a debate against Donald Trump, we saw, like, you couldn't hide it anymore. Like, you couldn't really, misrepresent it any more than you have. And I think that's why podcasting, whether, listen, at the national level, Joe Rogan, Ben Shapiro, those are people that people started going to for media because they said, you know what, this is more reliable. The establishment media has been lying to us, whether it's national or even statewide or even the local. And, again, the reason that I take this job so seriously is because, to your point, people are relying on us to inform, not influence per se. You make your own decisions, but we just want to bring you the information without a slant. And it just seems like a lot of the establishment media, Al, has just felt like, well, you know what? We've been at this long enough. Either you like us or you don't, or you watch us or you don't. I just think that's a very arrogant and very sort of, I don't know, I think kind of mailing it in attitude.
Well, I mean, all of these people who criticize podcasters like you should go back to understanding the foundations of journalism in America. It's a man named Ben Franklin. And what did Ben Franklin did? He put out all of these podcasts, but they were in print, but they were podcasts. He founded journalism, and he founded a fair version of journalism. And that's a model that we all should go back to and understand. He had opinions, and he presented it, but they were clearly separate from what he was trying to say and what he was trying to convey. And there are times when journalism rises to that level, but right now we're really in the doldrums, and we need to get back to understanding our job, which is basically to present people with the choices they need to make choices. And that's what elections are about, but that's also about everyday journalism, what we do for stories. And again, you do it well.
Al, that's really kind of you, man. Listen, you've been doing this forever. You're the dean of journalism in this county. I put you up there in my Mount Rushmore, along with, and I'm sure you know the name. Obviously, I had a chance to be on his show multiple times. Last summer, we lost the great Michael Aaron. Last summer, really, and it was heartbreaking to me because he's a guy who came on my show multiple times. I was on his show, and he respected my brand. And I still feel his loss today. But I look at you as such a fixture here in Hudson County. The big question I think maybe people ask you all the time, Al, you have nothing to prove. You have tons of awards, accomplishments. How much longer do you want to keep doing this, man?
I like doing it. So I'm going to do it as long as I can physically do it, as long as people will hire me to do it. I mean, the point here is that it's a job. I respect it. I like doing it. There's sometimes where it's a pain in the ass, but it's most of the time. I got embarrassed the other day when I showed up for my first council meeting in Jersey City in a while, and the council applauded me. And I was crawling under the table going, guys, I want to be invisible here, and that, but I will do it until they throw me out. I mean, I have nothing, I like doing it. And as long as you like doing it and you do it fairly, I'll do it until I, my professor for journalism back in William Patterson College, um, he died picking up his newspaper off the front lawn. He was old school, and and that's me. When I go away, I want it to be the last thing I'm doing is holding a newspaper or a podcast or something.
That would be, I think, the most appropriate way for sure. Al, certainly, tap into New Jersey really is. I want to see a different business model or different sort of setup here because obviously at the local level we have the Jersey Times with Aaron Morrill, my co-host Talking Jersey City. I'm not sure if you caught that show, but good traffic on it so far this year with him and I. Obviously, we have Hudson County View with John Highness. We have the Hudson County TV with Julio Reynoso and Jeff Henning, obviously. But when we look at TapInto, TapInto Hoboken, Jersey City, and Bayonne, like a lot of the TapInto statewide, I would argue bring a different take to how we present local news. Like Hudson County View, I think, has become very investigative. Same thing with the Jersey Times. How would you best describe TapInto in the realm that you're working in with Steve Lennox?
We're a community newspaper. We're taking like what was originally the Sea Caucus Home News or the Bayonne Community News. We're looking to reach people on a level where it isn't always hard news. It isn't always scandalous. Sometimes it's just a picture of their kids. We want to have that. We want people to come to our site because they want to see themselves.
Yeah.
And they don't want everything to be doom and gloom. And, I do the mixture. I do the politics. I do this other stuff. But essentially, I'm a community news person, and that's what we bring to it.
No, listen, you're doing great stuff at TapInto Jersey City and Hoboken and Bayonne. Shout out to Steve Lennox again. Great guy that I get to talk to. Not too often. I see him maybe once at the League of Municipalities if I'm lucky, if he's not in Ireland for most of the year. So good guy.
Yeah, he loves Ireland.
Good guy.
He loves it.
But Al, before I let you go, man, listen, thank you for coming on here. I always enjoy our talks. You've always been such a believer in my brand of journalism. And listen, I'm not the most humble guy around, but I'm deeply humbled when I know I can get you on this show and we can have great conversations that are informative and educational. And again, Al, I can't say it enough without getting too sentimental here with you. All the success that I enjoyed today, all these awards, all these accolades, everything I've had to enjoy, I would not have without you, Al. Like, I owe my success to you in this business. Everything you've done in this business, again, you don't get the flowers I think that you deserve. And you've had an enormous influence on so many people in this industry. And again, everything that I am as a journalist today, everything that I owe my success to, I owe it to you, Al. I love you, man. And everything that I'm able to be today, I owe it to you. And I'm forever grateful and thankful to you for your belief in me. And I can't love you enough, man. I'll give you the last word.
Well, you're putting too much credit on me. You did the work. You're the one who does this stuff. If you weren't worthy of doing it, if you weren't worthy, you wouldn't be there. You clearly did this yourself. I may have helped you along the way, but you're the one who's doing the backbreaking work. You're the one who's doing the interviews. You're putting it up. And that's the point. We're all very responsible for our own successes, and you did too. So take a lot of that credit on for yourself, okay?
Well, thank you, Al. I appreciate it. And again, man, all the success in my opinion, that I have today is because of you. I mean, you got me interested in this business. I always admired you from afar when you were working again at the Hudson Reporter. You were at commissioner meetings. You were out in the field. I mean, bro, as far as I'm concerned, you set the standard, and I'm just trying to, keep up with you. And again, I'm forever grateful for everything you bring to this business.
You're way ahead of me, believe me.
Again, and folks can check out tapinto.net/Jersey City, also /Hoboken/Bayonne. Al, any big stories or anything we should keep an eye out for that you're working on?
Well, now it's all Jersey City and, a lot of money. They're trying to deal with all of their constituents. And right now, the last meeting, you had jobs that people aren't getting locally, bike lanes that are not getting built, and that kind of thing. And those are the bread and butter issues that people care about. I mean, there was a whole group of people that came out saying, we have all this development and none of the local people are getting the good jobs. Why is that? And the council needs to answer it. And there's other stuff, but that's essentially what I'm doing, bread and butter stuff.
Well, Al, keep up the great work again. Folks, he is the Dean of Hudson County Journalism and the Distinguished Columnist at TapInto Jersey City, Bayonne, and Hoboken. Also, he is the great Al Sullivan. Al, love you, man. Keep up the great work. Stay healthy. And we got to catch up eventually for lunch at some point.
Yeah. Why don't we do that? Yes, we're in the same neighborhood. So.
I know, exactly. I got to hit you up. Yes, we will do that.
All right, take care.
He's Al Sullivan, our guest tonight here on Real Talk. Al, God bless you. We'll talk to you again soon here on Jersey First TV.
Bye-bye.
Folks, good stuff there with Al Sullivan. And again, not to get overly sentimental on this show, but I'm gonna die on that hill, man. Again, a lot of the success that I have today, I owe to Al Sullivan. I'm forever grateful to him, and I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for looking at great examples like Al Sullivan. So, love you, man. Thank you for the kind words tonight, and makes a difference for all of us that consider this a business, consider this not a job. It's not really employment, folks. It's something you love doing. And when I stop loving what I'm doing, then I won't do it anymore. But I love hosting and podcasting and providing you exceptional journalism that you've come to rely on when it comes to this show and everything we do and represent here at Jersey First TV. So again, folks, check out Al Sullivan on TapInto Jersey City, Bayonne, and Hoboken. Great columns. And of course, shout out to the great staff there, and of course to their owner, Steve Lennox, when he's here. If he's not in Ireland, fellow Yankee fan, hoping to get Steve Lennox on in the coming weeks and months ahead here on the program as well. Folks, it's 13 past 7 here on the East Coast. Don't go anywhere. We appreciate if you're just joining us live. Like, comment, and share tonight's episode. Great numbers so far in the live views, as I'm seeing here on the panel. Keep the comments coming, and we appreciate all of your feedback here on Real Talk via Jersey First TV. Folks, I can't say enough about what it means to work as hard as I like to here on this program, because you deserve it. You've bestowed your trust in me and Jersey First TV, and you know what? We want to reciprocate it back to you and keep bringing you outstanding journalism and better opinion journalism than anybody right now in Garden State media. Folks, you don't want to go anywhere because it's time for final thoughts. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, before we get to sort of clowns on a more statewide level, I want to touch upon some local clowns here. As you can see behind me, apparently there's a new toilet paper line that'll be available here in Hudson County. My sources tell me. And what better idea for toilet paper than to include these idiots behind me, right? Hey, folks, we all know who they are. The local malcontents and derelicts and illiterates, right? We all know who they are, right? Jose Garrido, who cries poverty all the time, but this illiterate finds money to find championship belts. Can someone explain this to me? How this illiterate is crying poverty with his ongoing sob story and all the other sobbing bullshit that we have to endure on his social media. And God forbid this guy ever use spell check, this retard. Really? Whether it's this guy or, John Bender, who, hey, Johnny, by the way, it's 2025. I mean, I think, on your social media, you might want to update your profile picture. It's not 1975 anymore. Okay. Just in case you forgot the dates or anything. Right. Or the other local illiterates like Ernie Rivera Batiz. Folks, let's be honest about Chiquitin. I mean, the only A's this retard ever saw on his report card were in his name. Because God knows he didn't see any A's anywhere else. Right. Or Joe Blaitler, another useless malcontent, right? Who, again, it's way past his bedtime now, I'm sure. But I'm sure he'll catch the replay because he can't help himself, right? Or, of course, Leonard Filipowski. Folks, what's interesting about these idiots that sort of all galvanize and sort of try to embolden Leonard Filipowski is this is a guy who thinks he's trying to set some sort of standard on journalism. A guy who tries to go on social media and tell you, yes, you know what, if you believe in the Hudson Record, you should come work for that. Folks, check out the Hudson Record online. There's one post since June. No social media, right? What exactly is journalism by Leonard Flapowski? What, going to churches and pretending that he's praying, and then when he's escorted out of the building, right? And you'll have to forgive me if this isn't the best Leonard Flapowski, impersonation. But the minute you touch it, it's like, oh, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like he feels the need to scream unnecessarily. Okay? Or whether he's at commissioners' meetings or he's being thrown out of the county prosecutor's office with the same ridiculous jacket, with the same ridiculous suit. Okay? A guy who somehow thinks that he's setting the standard on journalism. A guy who thinks that, I don't know, that well-established, credible journalists like John Hines, the editor of the Hudson County View, or James De Los Santos, the editor of HUD-Post, okay, or Julio Reynoso and Jeff Henning with Hudson County TV, or Aaron Morrill, the editor of the Jersey City Times, or yours truly, which, by the way, Leonard, again, you can see here in my home studio, this clearly isn't a basement. So I get it. You're like in your late 70s. Maybe your eyesight isn't working too well, but you can clearly tell this isn't a basement, Or the rest of the idiots that join you there that sort of like clap along like seals at a circus when you feed them when you dangle a fish in front of them, right? Whether it's like legitimate retards like Jose Garrido who can't spell, right? So if it's not his usual sob story about what's going on with his life and boo-hoo and whatever else he's bitching about, it's always, isn't it funny, folks, for a guy that cries poverty, again, posing with multiple replica championship belts, this dumbass mother effer would want you to believe he's crying poverty when you have money for that, okay? Why don't you spend your money on something more constructive? Like buy software that helps you spell check. Folks, it's embarrassing. A grown-ass man in his 60s like Jose Garrido can't spell check. Or even Ernie Rivera-Batiz, another, Chiquitin, all 5'1" of them, right? They can't spell check either. But what's more egregious, again, is the minions that enable them, right? The John Benders of the world. The retired malcontents like Joe Blaitler. Folks, I have never seen a guy who has so much time on his hand that you retired 12, 13 years ago and you're still bitching and moaning about whatever goes on in the city that has paid you handsomely and that is giving you a pension which you're living on, which again allows you to have a house in Morris County and a house in Florida. But folks, these are the idiots we're supposed to take seriously in New Jersey media or activism or advocacy. I couldn't think of a better destination for them to land on than a new line of toilet paper. Because when you think about Jose Garrido and Joe Blaitler and John Bender and Leonard Flapowski and Ernie Rivera-Batiz and all the other minions that we all know support them on social media with their posts that get maybe 5 likes the most, right? I couldn't think of a more appropriate destination than for them to be featured on toilet paper. Because when I think of these 5 idiots, folks, the first thing I think about is wiping my ass with them. Because guess what? We all do too. Now, moving on from useless idiots like these fools, all right? Let's move on to another useless clown in New Jersey media. Actually, a guy with a real following, a guy who actually does journalism. I'm not sure about real journalism, but actually does journalism, right? Unlike these fools behind me, okay? But let's think about the usual suspects in the TDS echo chamber. And folks, we all know they're behind me. We all know. I pick them on all the time. You can see there Uncle Dave, David Cruz, Max Pizarro, who barely leaves his house, Alan Steinberg, it's 7:21 on the East Coast, so it's way past his bedtime for the this spring chicken there. Alan Steinberg, as he likes to refer to himself. You're far from a spring chicken there, Ali. But or all the useless journalists like Chucky Style, who, by the way, Charles, felicidades, Senior Wright University. Look at you leaving your house to do work. Yes, milagro. Or even Matt Friedman, who, by the way, I'll give him his due. Just like a clock is right twice a day also. I'll give Matt Freeman his due. He actually did some real work last week in reporting on a very important story about fundraising and some questionable tactics that are being employed by gubernatorial candidates. Cool. I'll give you your due, Matthew. Sooner or later, I knew you'd do some constructive work. But folks, as you can see there, and there's no shortage of TDS sycophants that, live and breathe on Trump derangement syndrome. But the latest example that really doesn't sit well with me is this guy, and it's a shame because I've had him on my show, and that's Joe Amaditis, the co-chair of the Center for Cooperative Media at Woke State University over in Montclair. Now, again, let me start off by saying, Joe, I commend you and I admire you for your service to our country. Not an issue, not a bone to pick with you on that one. But when it comes to journalism, bro, you get a little sloppy, you get a little lazy. And something that caught my eye recently, and again, you can check out the Twitter feed for the Center for Cooperative Media. You can see there. Announcing the winners last week of the 2025 New Jersey Ethnic and Community Media Awards. Now, you're probably wondering, Fernando, why did this get on your radar? Well, sure enough, as a student of the business, I like to read up on what my peers are doing because that's how you get better. That's how you learn about what's going on in the business of media, communications, and journalism. And of course, as you can see there, certainly some very questionable people to invite to last week's awards ceremony. But nevertheless, the fact, when you invite someone like Patricia Campos Medina, right, someone who coddles illegals at every turn in her advocacy, right, but also as a candidate, right, and her failed U.S. Senate run, where she got, I think, 10% of the vote or something? And I get it. She'll have all these insufferable feminist groups, all these cat ladies that come out and support her, right? The New Jersey Working Families Party, Latino Civic Action Pact, right? Latino Civic Action, right? The New Jersey Alliance for Immigrant Justice, Make the Road New Jersey, all these insufferable feminist groups, right? All these cat ladies that'll make you believe that somehow we're on the brink of living in the times of the Handmaid's Tale. And that women's rights are being eroded. No, bullshit. Nothing's happening. But propagandists like Patricia Campos Medina and her useless husband, Bob Medina, who I think, at 7:20, way past Bob's bedtime. As we all know, Bob, being 96 years old, way past his bedtime here. So he's definitely not watching the show live tonight. But what does it say when you're trying to have a legitimate award ceremony, but you invite clowns like Patricia Campos Medina? And Joe, you should be ashamed of yourself because you would think you would know better. Okay? Just like the useless idiots I just referenced earlier here locally in Hudson County, bro, you work at Montclair State University for the Center of Cooperative Media. You would think that when you're honoring legitimate people, have legitimate guests or speakers. I hate to break it to you, folks. Patricia Campos Medina isn't one of them. So I don't know what Joe Amaditis was thinking, but here's what's really, really interesting, folks. And let me sort of go to the premise here about why it's so egregious and why this doesn't sit well with me. All right, so last week, again, during these awards, right, we ended up honoring at the New Jersey Ethnic and Community Media Awards, right? And one guy that really stood out for me that I think was really, really egregious, and short of Cory Booker, I think sending some pre-recorded comments and whatever tantrum he was throwing, who knows, right? What I thought was really interesting was the Leadership Award. Now, this is what the Center for Cooperative Media will tell you. The Leadership Award recognizes a local journalist who elevates the voices of people in their community, using their platforms to advance undeserved, under-resourced, and unheard residents. Awarded to Clivel Marcano, editor-in-chief of Reporte Hispano, for his dedication to providing Spanish-speaking communities with vital information about health, immigration, housing, education, and social issues. No, Joe, that's not what he does. Because when you read his columns for NJ Spotlight News, and again, another news site in New Jersey, established news site, that less and less people watch. Now, I get it. there's plenty of MILFs on there, and that's the reason I watch it. I don't watch it for Uncle Dave. Like, who wants to look at David Cruz for 30 minutes? Now, if you're telling me that Brianna Vanozzi, Joanna Gagas, or Raven Santana are coming up on the broadcast, oh yeah, I'm there. Okay? Esa buena es tan buena. I want to tune in to see them. No question. Okay? But what have we learned about NJ Spotlight News, folks? It's a left-wing organization, masquerading as a news organization, that loves to coddle illegals, that vilifies those of us that believe in strong borders and, curbing illegal immigration. But just simply read, okay, what Mr. Marcano's beliefs are. It shouldn't surprise anybody that NJ Spotlight News is going to embolden and put this guy on a pedestal. What's even more shameful, Joe, and to the center, whoever the committee was, and again, let me be very clear. This isn't like some sort of self-grandizing thing. It's not like saying that I should have won this award. Folks, I win plenty of awards. I can't fit in this house. Okay, so it's not for a shortage of awards. But if you're going to give an award for someone, and again, let's read the criteria, okay, who elevate the voices of people in their community using their platforms to advance undeserved, under-resourced, underheard residents. What exactly are we advancing? That a new administration wants to keep our cities safe? That a new administration sees the dangers of illegal immigration and what illegals have done to our country? The crime spree that illegals have engaged in? I see it across the river in New York, folks. We've seen it here in New Jersey. We've seen it in cities all over the country. Okay? Or illegals coming across the border, having kids here, and guess what? They overcrowd our schools. Folks, I know hundreds of teachers in New Jersey, spread out throughout 21 counties, that are telling me that schools are overcrowded. Why? Because we're seeing more and more illegals come across the border in the last 4 years alone and overcrowding our schools. There's no reason why a classroom in our elementary schools should have anywhere between 40 to 45 to even 50 children in it. That is an overwhelming burden on all of our hardworking men and women who are employed as school teachers. Or all the social services that illegals absorb and use up. Or how they're destroying real estate by moving into our communities. Okay? You would think that Joe Amaditis would have a better sense of understanding than emboldening people like Marcano. But no, again, the reason that Joe likes him is because Joe is just as woke as the rest of the people they're honoring last week. And that's disappointing. Okay? Because you would think that if we're talking about people that deserve these awards, how about people that are trying to raise awareness about the dangers of illegal immigration? Okay? About making sure that we believe in, hey, helping police and stopping with this, hey, New Jersey should be a sanctuary state. And we have mayors nearby like Ravi Bala and other mayors like Stephen Fulop that call their municipalities sanctuary cities. They'll actually go as far as sign an executive order for it. Folks, is that leadership that wants to keep you safe? No, it isn't. But Joe Amaditis forgets about that because he would rather virtue signal because that's all Joe Amaditis is good for. Folks, just look at his Twitter page. Okay? Just look at the bio. All right? And he fits in perfectly at Woke State over there at Montclair because, folks, what grown-ass man has pronouns in his bio? What have we learned, ladies and gentlemen? Again, I don't know where Joe went to elementary school or high school. But I know when I took AP Anatomy and Physiology at Memorial High School, I got an A in it, by the way, no surprise. Okay? There's two genders. This gender identity, woke bullshit, and identitarian politics. See, this is the stuff that gets Joe Amaditis all erect and the rest of the idiots that subscribe to this madness. But to people like everyday common sense people like yours truly, no, folks, I don't subscribe to this nonsense. So the minute that I see someone with pronouns in their bio or their email, folks, that is the easiest sign for you to know you can't take these people seriously. These are grown adults that are, let's be honest, misguided and misinformed. Okay? And that's the problem here. Because Joe Amedidas, as an academic and an educator, these are the people that Montclair State University employs to teach journalism, to teach communications and media. Thank the Lord we don't have Joe Amedidas teaching biology, because this mother effer would fail that subject too. Let's be honest. He would shit the bed on this. And there was a time when I respected Joe Amedidas. I had him on this show. I don't have an issue having Joe on the show. But what's interesting is Joe reminds me of the typical liberal, progressive, social justice clown and woke fool, and climate hysteric too. Okay? That gets a little, for a guy that probably will tell you that men can have periods and men can get pregnant. It's interesting when I reached out to Joe because, hey, we had a good conversation. We'll agree or disagree like gentlemen, like plenty of people do on this show. Okay? But for a guy to respond the way he did, I'm like, really? Is Joe menstruating? And I get it. Joe's the type of guy that would think that men get periods. So I'm like, oh, that kind of falls in line with Joe Amedidas. Menstruating because he doesn't like what I publish on social media. Okay. That's rich, Joey. For a guy that's supposed to be on the side of the aisle that, remember, is the tolerant ones, they're the ones who are, the most tolerant of other. No, you're tolerant of what you want to hear. You're not tolerant of all ideas. You're tolerant of what you want to hear, Joey. And I can respect you for serving our country. I don't respect you for what you're doing to journalism. And that's a shit job. That's a piss poor job, in my opinion. And when you embolden people like you do, like Marcano and others, and you invite them to campus along with Patty Campos Medina, what you're telling me is that these awards aren't serious. These aren't serious people, folks. And it's a shame because there was a moment in time when I used to respect Joe Amedidas. Yeah, that doesn't apply any longer. Joe, you should know better. There's still hope for you. Clean up your act. Stop being a slapnut. Stop being a social justice clown and woke fool. And come into the real world. Okay? Where there's men and women. Okay? There are multiple genders. Okay? When people have, gender reveals when they're pregnant and couples are doing all these like lavish, extravagant parties, folks, it's either blue for boy or pink for girl. There's no multiple genders. Don't tell that to Joe Amedidas and his crowd. They might tell you different. And it's a shame, folks, because there's a moment in time when I respect Joe Amedidas. But, folks, when you look at a guy and you see pronouns in the bio, yeah, can't take them seriously. Joe, do better. It's not too late. And those are my final thoughts. Folks, before we call it a day, happy President's Day once again to all of our past presidents, but more specifically, these presidents here. The first President, George Washington, President Dwight Eisenhower, President Abraham Lincoln, and President Ronald Reagan. And to our 45th and 47th president, respectively, Donald Trump. Folks, it's a better country right now. We're being taken seriously. Promises made, and thus far, a lot of promises delivered. It's not even 30 days in. It's just a better country under Donald Trump. I know it's a big pill for you, a lot of you to swallow. But folks, that's not, I hate to break it to you. That's not, it's not a prediction. That's a spoiler. And for a lot of you out there that, are still sort of, resisting or making asses of yourselves at rallies today, no, folks. We're seeing a better country now. We're seeing this movement away from all the woke bullshit and about drilling domestically and about trying to address affordability in this country. Not caring about if men can have periods or all the nonsense on the White House lawn we've seen the last 4 years. All right, with mentally ill people flashing their breasts on the White House lawn or Easter bunnies twerking. Okay, all the other woke nonsense. No, folks, we're getting back to normal. And that's a good thing. So once again, happy President's Day to all the presidents out there, but most importantly, our current president now. Yes, folks, it's a great day here on President's Day. And as a matter of fact, I just see it there on my production panel. I almost forgot, to remind us all that, folks, when we think about legitimate journalism and legitimate media, folks, think about Real Talk with Fernando Uribe. Not Mickey Mouse journalists or Mickey Mouse minions that enable stupidity in Hudson County. Folks, yeah, we all know who they are. Ah, yes, folks. Couldn't pass that up, could I? Folks, when you think about real traffic and real commentary and real discussion, it's Real Talk. Every single week here on Jersey First TV. That's our show for this week, folks. Once again, check us out on all of our social media platforms. Make sure you like us on Facebook. Of course, follow us on Instagram and X. Subscribe on YouTube. Again, it takes 2 seconds. Like, comment, and share tonight's episode and all our episodes. They're provided to you by Jersey First TV. And of course, whether you get your podcast on Spotify or SoundCloud, download Jersey First and take it with you anywhere at any time. Folks, we appreciate your support here on the Jersey First Television Network. Speaking of which, I can't say how proud I am to be on the dream team of Garden State Media, folks. That's right. It is indeed Jersey First TV. Brand new episodes of the Nader Narrative premiere every Thursday. Check out local listings, of course, and start times. Hosted by the amazing Elizabeth Nader. And, of course, brand new episodes of Real Talk premiere every Monday night. Again, check out local listings and start times here on the Jersey First Television Network. Folks, again, I want to thank Al Sullivan, tonight's guest here, the distinguished columnist for TapInto, Jersey City. And, of course, the Dean of Hudson County Journalism for a wonderful and insightful conversation here tonight. Always remember, ladies and gentlemen, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, it's always Real Talk right here with Jersey First TV. I am the generational talent in Garden State Media, and I'll continue to be the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State Media, folks. Because my level of honesty, now more than ever, is truly necessary in this era of journalistic deception. That's right, it's me, Fernando Uribe. Folks, enjoy the rest of your week. Please party responsibly. Thanks for stopping by. And always remember, stay classy, everyone.